Greetings, Pilgrims, and welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. And today we have a brand new episode for you, and I've got something pretty exciting to share with you. As you can see on our screen here, we are starting to get our custom UI in here, and today we're going to be talking about creating a custom-shaped health bar. So as you can see in the top left corner there, this is our health bar. This is also our energy bar. It also shows what special item we're going to have, and it will show our round number. So this game is going to be round-based, sort of like the popular Call of Duty Zombies games, where every round there are so many enemies, and once you defeat them, you go on to the next round. And we have all kinds of extra features in there. We have special quests and all kinds of things. But for today's purpose, we're just going to talk about the health and the energy for our UI, for our HUD design here. Now, as you may have noticed, the health bar is not a rectangle or not a circle. So I really wanted to push the envelope and try to create something that is non-standard and is thematic. So each section of this game has a theme, and this theme is the medieval theme that we've been working on. So I wanted to have our UI kind of very, very compact, and so we have this shield shape, and I wanted to have these two sort of edges that flow along the top down to the corner there, and then down to the very bottom to show off the health, and then on the opposite side, rather, we have our energy bar. So I wanted to work on that today and show you how we go about doing that. So let's jump out of our scene here, and let's jump into the editor and take a look. So this consists of 5 different parts. That sounds like a lot, but it's really not. We can handle it. No problem there at all. So the first part we're going to talk about are the textures. So really this consists of 4 or 5 different textures. I'll jump into my HUD folder here, into the textures, and let's take a look. So we have one for the flag, which is the background there. Now, on the flag will be an icon for your special attack that you have. So don't worry about that for right now. We have the shield, the background of the shield. We have the health bar and the energy bar, and then we have the outer frame. So let's jump ahead just a little bit and take a look at our HUD here. Let's see, right here. So this is what you were just looking at, and here are the different layers to it. Now, the one thing I've noticed about this is these get stacked in reverse order. So the bottommost one is the thing that is on the most top. So that's our round number. So this is just a UI element. It's a text field that we can alter the content here. So as you go to the next round, this will update to say 2, 3, 4, etc. Next, we have the shield outer frame. And this is just this golden frame here that goes along the edge. And that's really all it is. And as you can see here, that's all it is. The middle is missing on purpose, so it will show through the bottom content. Then we have our energy bar, and we have our health bar, and we have a shield background, and then the very bottom is the flag, which is underneath everything. Now, you'll notice that the energy bar right now is a static image, and it's basically a placeholder. So this will just show as full at all times. I wanted to get the health bar working first, and then we'll come back to the energy bar, and it will work in very much the same fashion. So for the health bar, you'll notice that the difference is energy bar here is definitely pulling in an image. But if I take a look at the health bar, it's pulling in mat_health_bar_temp. So that's just the name I gave for my material. So this is a material which is driving this static imagery instead of an image. Now, an image is static, it never changes. But for a health bar, that changes a lot. Maybe not so much if you're a good player. But we want to make sure that we can make changes to it. So we have a material instead. So let's take a look at Photoshop really quick and talk about how we created these. And yes, I'll be providing all of the assets. You can follow along, and you can have the same thing too, and you can look at it as an example and break it down and make your own custom-shaped health bars. Okay, so let's bring up Photoshop. So here are my UI designs, and this is the shield, and you can see the flag in the background. We'll just hide that for now because we're not interested in that for this tutorial. If I open up the shield, you'll see here it is in the layers. There's the background. There's this thing called crease. And that's what's giving me this sort of crease right down the middle here. I wanted that as a stylistic choice, so it's not really relevant to the tutorial, but there it is. Our energy bar, as you can see here, is static, and our health bar is over here. And you'll notice that both of these guys have an effect on them, and it's really just putting a color overlay. So if I hide everything else, let's hide the frame, let's hide the background, let's hide the energy bar, you'll notice that at its core, all this bar really is a cutout of the shape with a special gradient applied to it. And that gradient goes from white, and then as we go down the shape, we get more gray, work our way down towards black. So that's really all there is to it. It's just this gradient from white down to black. And if you look at the health bar, it's much the same fashion. Or the energy bar, pardon me. It's much the same fashion. It's the exact same thing, just on the other side. Okay, so we're going to hide that for now because we don't care at the moment. So to create this, you're thinking, wow, how do I get this gradient? It was a little difficult at first to figure out how to get a gradient that follows this custom shape. So let's jump over to this file, and this was my file that I used to kind of play around with ideas. And if I zoom all the way out real quick, I'll show you, this is the file I'm using to sort of plan the whole thing. So if I hide this and I start to unhide, here's the new shield. I'm working on some banners. There's a couple more banners. There's the flag. So, you know, this is my play around file, test things out, and kind of plot out where I want them to be on the screen. So this is where I first came up with this concept here. I first figured out how to do this. So what this is this is basically just a brush stroke, which has a special effect put to it. And then I saved a copy of it to another layer, and then I cut out the shape that I wanted. So if I create a new layer above this, and I'll show you how we did this, I'm going to go to my brush, so hit the B key, and I have white selected, and I'm just going to do some sort of a shape. Okay? Now, let's take a look at what the effect is on here that's making this work. So we go under Effects, Stroke, so let's open that up, and we'll take a look at that. So our stroke has a size, it's set to outside, blending mode of normal, gradient, here's the gradient that I've affected, and the style is reflected, and I put it 90 degrees, top down to bottom. And that gave me pretty much what I wanted. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done, and it's a pretty close approximation. The other way you can do this is if you are lucky enough to have a pressure-sensitive drawing tablet that connects to the computer, you can give it a pressure weight and then click and drag, and as you drag, press more and more and more and more, and you get a lot smoother, a lot more realistic approach to that. So if we take this, and I'm going to right-click and say Copy Layer Style, and I'm going to put it on our new shape and say Paste Layer Style. You'll see that we get this, and that's not quite right. So if we go Stroke, if you do Inside, you can get that as well. Now, the reason this is here is because I think I did it off of a selection. That's why I kind of took that selection and went outward with it, and I just cropped from the inside what I wanted. Here you can paint what you want and then put this, and it'll follow that shape. So now this could be your health bar if you wanted. So there you go. So that's how that works, and I will provide an example of this along in with the file, and then I'll provide this as well, so you have the whole setup here, so you can follow along. All right, let's put this guy back for just presentation. There we go. So he's all set. So I'll save him, and we're done with that. Okay. So once we have all of those textures ready, we're going to import them into Unreal here, and I just imported each one as a PNG file. And I made sure that what I did here was each of these was just the shape of the shield. I think it ended up being 160 by 200. So it's actually a pretty small image. Now that we have those textures in here, we need to make our material and we need to make our widget. So let's talk about the widget first, and we'll come back to the material because it's the most complicated part. So the widget itself is actually pretty simple. So here is the widget, and this guy is, let's see here. Assigning all of these is actually very easy. So we imported an image here. You just click and drag an image onto the chart here. And you'll notice that my shield out of frame, we'll take that as an example. I know the size of him. I know he's 160 by 200, so I set that in there. It automatically comes with a top left-hand anchor, and you can change that anchor up here. You can change which position you want it to be. You need to be more center if it moves around the screen, or if you know you want it to be a certain bar or a full screen. I just left it alone because that's what he is, top left. And then I made sure this matched 162 by 200, and there he is. And I set him over here, draw as image. And that's it. And there he is. He's in place. Now remember, you have to work kind of forward to back, bottom to top here. So the shield frame is the top piece. And if I were to hide that, you see it underneath. Then come the bars, the energy and the health bar. Then there's the shield background itself. And this is important because that shield background is going to cover up our flag. Our flag here is actually going to have a little zone behind here where it sort of gets masked. And the idea is that the first time you pick up a special power-up, the flag is going to unfurl. It's just going to kind of slide down. And then the flag is on the very bottom. And all of these are done the same. They're all the exact same size, 162 by 200. I did it on purpose so that everything lines up perfectly. So we just create a new widget here, and you can do that through here. If I go to HUD, You see here our widget here is called Health Tempi. And just, playing around saying, let's make it work first and then we'll make it pretty. So if I right click and say user interface widget, okay, if I go into that widget, and now here I can just start adding my images. I say image, and you can drag it right here, or you can drag it right onto here. Either way works. Now this guy, you'll notice that his position is now out in the middle of the field because that's where I dragged him to. But I can select, let's do that. Select, come on, from an image. I don't want to save it. I actually want to give this guy a custom image that I've already used. Okay, well, I have to look for it. Let's go test. There we go. HUD, textures, there we go. Let's say flag. I don't want to save you though. Oh, you can drag and drop as well, and that's another thing that I like. So textures, do flag, and I'll go all the way up to my new widget and just drag and drop him in there and say you're going to use the flag. And you'll notice it's taking this size that is arbitrary and it's trying to incorporate my flag into that size. So you could stretch it out, but again, you're going to get pixel loss and it's not designed to be stretched. But if you set him to 162 by 200, now he's the correct size. Now you can put this flag anywhere you like on your little widget here. Put it up here as like a little message bar or over here. So it's very, very flexible. You can drag and drop and it's very nice. So that's how we're going to create our setup here. And that's all this is going to do. Now the important thing is once we create our material, we're going to come back here and change out our health bar to use the material instead of the static image. So that's all the changes we're going to make there. Okay, so now let's talk about the material. So we'll go over to our material, and this is what he looks like. It's not really that complex, so you can breathe easy. So what we're going to do is create a new material. So again, right-click, material, give it a name, and then open it up. Now inside of our material, we're going to drag and drop in our gradient. So the gradient, what we saved out of Photoshop here, the gradient is going to be just your health bar. Let's hide the flag as well. Just the health bar with the effects turned off. We just want the gradient, okay? Save that out and we'll bring that in and drag and drop them into here. Now, what we're going to do is we need to get just the gradient itself, and the way we do that is we're going to do a subtract, and we're going to subtract our alpha over top of, and I took just this green channel. I think you can choose the blue and the red. I chose the green and it seems to work, so we'll do that. And this is what it gives us here. But then what we need is we actually need the inverse of this, because you'll notice now the bottom here is white and up top here is darker. We need the inverse. We need white to black. So we're going to do a 1 minus x, and that's exactly what you type here. 1 minus, and you'll see there, 1 minus. That's the node we're going to use. For some reason, a multiply by -1 does not work. So don't try to do that. It's not going to work. I use a 1 minus here, and now we have the inverse of what we want, and this is perfect. Now, we're going to create a parameter here. So this is a parameter, and I'm going to call this player health 1 to 0, 1. So this is default value is 1, full health. 0 is the minimum, and then 1 is the slider max. So this can go from 0 to 1. Right now it's at 1, we're at full health. And I believe this is a scalar. So if we do scalar parameter, yes. So you right click and do scale, there you go. Parameters, scalar parameter, and that's what this guy is here. So you can name it whatever you want. Name this health, there you go, it changes. And do default 1, minimum 0, maximum 1, there you go. And then we hook that up, everything works nicely. Okay, why did it went away? Don't break now. Okay, it went away, I'm a little worried, there he is, he's back. So, health here, we're going to connect this into an if statement. And this if statement, again, you right click and look for if, it'll show up. So what we want to say is we have a couple of conditions. And we have A and B. So A is our texture here, and B is the value, which is variable, of our parameter here. So if A is greater than B, and we throw in a value of 0. So if 0 is true in this condition, we're going to do something in particular. And then if 1 is true in A less than B, so greater than, less than B. So if A is greater than B, then we're going to do something true. If A is greater than, A is less than B. If A is greater than B, we're going to do something false. And we pump that into opacity, and what that gives us is the ability to change this. So now my value is 1, so let me put this down to like a 0.2. 0.2, there we go. Set that up, and now let's wait a moment. And he's thinking, and there you go. So the value has come down. Now, you'll notice that we're about half health now, but I put a value of 0.2 in, so that should be like 20% health. Well, the reason for that is that my gradient is not perfect. So there's going to require a lot of tweaking with the gradient, and we'll go over that in a moment, but a lot of tweaking with the gradient to make sure that those values are very subtle, and it's because we're dealing with some geometry here. Because this is going on a curve from one point to another and a curve from point B to C, you're not getting straight lines, you're not getting whole numbers, it's a whole big mess. So you just have to play with it a little bit, you know, try it, import it, and you'll get there. But for instance, right now, all of this is set up and it's working correctly. Now over here for our material here, our material we have to set as a user interface, and we have to set it as translucent, and then it'll become this. You'll see this here. And the only two inputs that we really care about are our color and our opacity. So the opacity is the result of our if, and our color is a vector 3. So if you hold 3, I think, and click, yeah, you can choose whatever color you want, and then pump that into the final color. And essentially we are masking out this whole field of color with the result of our if, and that gives us our health amount. Okay? So I know that seems a little complicated, but if you follow this, this works perfectly. And if you have any questions, let me know. But this is what we're doing. We're basically doing some math here and saying, based upon how much of this value, how much are we going to show, how far are we going to scale back on this, and it all works. Okay, so now that we have all of that, let's take a look at the scene again. This will make a little bit more sense. You can see in the top left there, yep, I am indeed at about half health. And if I run this way, you'll see I added this into the scene just so that we can see it a little bit better in the video. And yeah, we're a little below half health there, okay? So that's working out nicely. And this guy is just a widget that I created and put in the scene for you guys and made it super, super big so that we can see that. Okay. Now, last couple of steps here. So we've created our textures. We've created our material. We've created our widget. Now we need to create a HUD, and then we need to tell the game to use that HUD, okay? So let's take a look at creating a HUD. So if I go into my HUD folder here, you can see here there is this thing called test HUD, and this is a HUD. So if I right click and say blueprint class, and I want to start searching here, HUD. So I'm going to create under actor HUD. You can see test HUD is here too because I could make a child of the one I already created. So we want this guy, actor HUD. And then you're going to say okay, and you're going to give it a name. I named mine test HUD. I'm going to open that guy up, and it's going to look like this at first. There's just nothing to it, right? Because it's just sort of an idea, and then we're going to add some intelligence behind it. All right. So nothing to do in the construction script. Pardon me. In the event graph, here's where we're going to do some stuff, and this is really quick and easy, and you'll be off to the races. So off of our event begin play, we're going to pull out a create dynamic material instance. Okay. The parent here, what is the material that we're creating? We're going to choose the material we created, our health bar temp. And we're going to say, I want you to create a dynamic instance of this material. Create it out of thin air. And he goes, okay, well, I need to know kind of a blueprint, no pun intended, for what you're looking for. I want to know what kind of thing you want to make. Okay, look at my material I made. That's what I want you to make. Cool. Now, same kind of thing. We're then going to say, now create an instance of the widget we made. Okay, so I'm going to pull off of this and say create widget, and I'm going to choose, again, what kind of widget do you want? See, the object class you want to construct. I want my health tempy thing that I made. Okay, cool. Now we have to tell it what material. Oh, look, we want that. We have to tell it who is the player that owns this. Who do we care about putting it on whose player's screen, right? So we're going to get the player controller and plug that in. Then, from the return value here, if you right-click and say promote to variable, you'll get this guy. And it doesn't really matter what you call it, and it will be here. We are parameterizing the health tempi. We're taking that and saying, take the whole idea of everything that is health tempi, the colors, all the settings, everything, and kind of encapsulate it into a box. Now I can stamp that box all over the place. And I'm going to say from here, add to viewport. What do you want me to add? I want you to add this thing. Okay? And basically that's just saying we're going to take this and say, put that on the screen. And that's all there is to it. Now that will work, except when you run it, if you are following along, you've saved it and you run it, you're not going to see it on the screen. And you're going to go, what the hell, Matt was wrong. You know, no, hold on. Now that we've created everything and we're telling it to put it to the screen, but this is a new type of HUD, and it's not the type of HUD that the game is currently using. That's the trick. Okay, so let's go up to our settings here. We're going to go to Edit. We're going to go to our Project Settings. Okay, and now under Project, I'm going to select Maps and Modes. And here's the crux. Here's the secret. Right here under Selected Game Mode, HUD Class, you just have to put in your HUD here that we just created. So now we're telling the game, okay, I've made a new HUD. You're going to display all this cool stuff I just made. By the way, here's the HUD I want you to use now instead of the default one that comes with the project. Makes sense, right? We're making a whole new thing, but we need to tell the game, I want you to use the thing I just made. Okay, so now with all of that done, everything's saved, everything's working perfectly. Now you can enjoy your level. So we run around here, and of course, yes, our dice, which I still love. We run around and look, there's our health, and it is controlled by that parameter, which we can reach into in code and change. And that's the whole key. So now as I run around, I'm fighting this enemy, and he hurts me. I go, okay, let me go get some health and re-attack. Then I can also look in the corner and see that my health has gone down. Or when I pick up a health item and I decide to use it, I can reach into that code and increase my health. And again, I'll run over here so we can look at this in all of its big glory here. Looks like an award, right? You know, the little thing with the flag coming out the bottom. But there you go. So now we're going to do the energy bar in much the same manner. And then we'll be able to use our energy attacks and see that go down. And maybe you can do a lerp so we can increase that over time and say you can use your energy, but then it'll refill slowly. So you have to run around and rely on the traps and the different things in the world to fight off your foes until your energy is back. So that's all we have for this week, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed very much. If you have any questions at all, if you have any trouble with it, please let me know. I know it took a little bit of doing here and a little bit of figuring things out, but it definitely works, and I think it works well, and I think it's clean, and I can reach into the code and make changes to it. So it's all coming together one little piece at a time. So I really appreciate you guys joining me on this journey. And thank you again to everybody with your considerations for the Hurricane Irma. Yes, we got through just fine. Everything's going just fine with that. And we recently passed 1,500 subs, and thank you so much for all of that. I'm so excited. That's just amazing. And I look forward to 1,500 more. Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing the envelope and making some amazing things. So, as always, guys, until next time, keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.